Sarah Chun had returned to her hometown of Millbrook, Oregon, after 15 years. The small mountain town hadn't changed much. The same old diners still served coffee on Main Street, but something felt different. Wrong. The streets emptied before sunset now. Shop windows displayed missing person flyers. 7 people had vanished in 3 months. All hikers, all found later, torn apart. Sarah was a wildlife biologist. The local sheriff had called her in to investigate. "Mountain lion," he'd said over the phone. But Sarah had seen mountain lion attacks before. This was something else entirely. She checked into the Pinewood Motel on the edge of town. The elderly clerk barely looked at her, just slid a key across the counter. "Don't go out after dark," he muttered. "Nothing good happens after dark anymore." That first night, Sarah heard it. A howl that made her blood run cold. It wasn't a wolf. Wolves didn't sound like that. This was deeper, more primal. It carried pain and hunger in equal measure. She looked out her window. The full moon hung low and bright. In the tree line beyond the parking lot, she saw 2 eyes reflecting the light. They were too high off the ground to be any normal animal. Then they were gone. Morning came with bad news. Another body had been found near Miller's Creek. Sarah drove out with Sheriff Tom Bradley, a man she'd known since childhood. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. The scene was brutal. The victim, a young man named Jake Morrison, had been camping alone. His tent was shredded. Blood painted the trees. But what caught Sarah's attention were the tracks leading away from the body. They started as wolf prints, large ones, larger than any wolf she'd documented. But 50 yards from the camp, they changed. They became human footprints, bare feet, walking back toward town. "What the hell am I looking at?" Tom asked, his voice shaking. Sarah couldn't answer. She'd read about cases like this in folklore, in old hunters' journals her grandfather had kept. She'd never believed them. Until now. Sarah spent the next 3 days in the town library, digging through old newspapers. A pattern emerged. Every 30 years, like clockwork, Millbrook experienced a series of brutal deaths. Always during autumn. Always during the full moon. The last cycle had been in 1995. Before that, 1965. Before that, 1935. The deaths would continue for 3 months, then stop. Whoever or whatever was responsible would vanish until the next cycle. She found something else. A name that appeared in multiple reports across the decades, Marcus Dorney. In 1935, he'd been a witness. In 1965, a suspect, briefly detained. In 1995, he'd reported finding a body. The same man. Over 90 years. Still alive. Still in Millbrook. Sarah tracked down his address. A cavity deep in the woods, miles from town. She knew she should tell Tom. She knew she should wait for backup. But something drove her forward. She had to know the truth. Marcus Thorne's cabin was dark when Sarah arrived at dusk. She'd ignored every instinct screaming at her to turn back. The door was unlocked. Inside, the walls were covered with newspaper clippings, photographs, maps, all documenting the killings. "You shouldn't have come here." The voice behind her made Sarah spin around. An old man stood in the doorway. He looked ancient, weathered by time, but his eyes were sharp and young. "Marcus Thorne?" Sarah asked. He nodded slowly. "I need to know what's happening in this town. What'd you know about these deaths?" Marcus closed the door. "What I know everything, because I'm the one doing it." His voice was heavy with shame and resignation. "And I can't stop." Sarah's hand moved to her phone. Marcus raised his hands. "You won't make it out of these woods if you run. Not tonight. The moon's already rising. Just listen. Please. I've been looking for someone like you." Marcus told her his story. In 1905, he'd been a logger. Young, arrogant, fearless. He and his crew had been working deep in old-growth forest. They'd found a cave none of the local tribes would go near. Inside was something ancient. Bones, symbols carved into stone, and a creature they'd mistaken for a large wolf. They'd shot it. Marcus had taken its pelt as a trophy, wearing it as a joke. That night, under the full moon, the transformation came. Agony unlike anything he'd imagined. His body broke and reformed. His mind remained trapped inside a beast, driven by instinct and hunger. He'd killed his entire crew that first night. The curse passes when you kill, Marcus explained. But it always returns. Every 30 years, 3 months before your next cycle begins, the hunger comes back. You can't control it. Why haven't you ended it? Sarah asked. Why not? I've tried. Bullets don't work. Poison doesn't work. Drowning doesn't work. I wake up the next night, healed, and the hunger is worse. His voice cracked. I'm a monster, and tonight, I'll be one again. Sarah watched in horror as the transformation began. Marcus screamed as bones snapped and reformed. His body convulsed, growing, changing. Fur erupted from his skin. His face elongated into a snout. In moments, the old man was gone. In his place stood a creature from nightmares, 8 feet tall, covered in dark fur, with eyes that held human intelligence twisted by animal hunger. It looked at Sarah. She saw Marcus still in there, fighting for control. Losing. The werewolf lunged. Sara Dobaside crashing through the cabin door. She ran into the darkening woods, branches tearing at her face. Behind her, she heard the creature howl, the same sound that had haunted her dreams. She couldn't outrun it. Sekneo, but she'd seen something in Marcus's cabin. A journal, open on his desk. She'd only glimpsed it, but the words burned in her memory. Silver from the sacred cave. If she could reach that cave, maybe she could end this. The forest was a maze. In the darkness, Sarah's lungs burned as she ran. She could hear the werewolf behind her, crashing through undergrowth. It was playing with her, she realized. It could catch her. Any time. She remembered these woods from childhood. The cave Marcus mentioned she knew it, the one the elders warned kids away from. She'd explored it once, young and brave and stupid. It was a mile north, maybe less. The werewolf appeared ahead of her, cutting off her path. Moonlight gleamed off its teeth. Sarah grabbed a fallen branch, knowing it was useless. The creature stalked forward, savoring the moment. Then something hit it from the side. Sheriff Tom, in his pickup truck, had followed her. The impact sent the werewolf tumbling. Get in, Tom shouted. They drove north, the werewolf chasing. Tom's hands were white on the wheel. What the hell is that thing? Someone trying to die, Sarah answered. The cave entrance was narrow, hidden behind moss and fallen trees. Sarah and Tom squeezed through, flashlights cutting the darkness. Behind them, they heard the werewolf howl with frustration, too large to follow. But it would find another way in. They had minutes. The cave opened into a vast chamber, and there, in the center, was what remained of the original werewolf. Ancient bones, surrounded by silver or embedded in the stone. Silver that had kept it trapped here for centuries, until Marcus had disturbed it. Sarah grabbed a chunk of silver, ore, sharp and heavy. Tom, give me your knife. He handed her his pocket. She began scraping silver filings into the blade's hollow handle. A growl echoed through the cave. The werewolf had found another entrance. Whatever you're doing, do it fast, Tom whispered, raising his gun. Sarah worked frantically, melting the silver with Tom's lighter, letting it coat the blade. The werewolf emerged from the shadows. But it didn't attack. It knelt before the ancient bones, as if in reverence or apology. Sarah approached slowly. The werewolf's eyes met hers. In them, she saw Marcus clearly now. Pain, exhaustion, and pleading. I know you want this to end, she said softly. But if I kill you, does the curse pass to me? Is that how it works? The werewolf shook its massive head. Witwanklau, it pointed at the ancient bones. Tenet itself. Then made a gesture of finality. Sarah understood. If Eddie had area in this place where the curse began, it would end. The cycle would break. But could she do it? Could she kill what had once been a man? Even a monster who'd killed in essence? Tom spoke behind her. Sarah, those 7 people, the family's destroyed. He knows what he's asking. The werewolf knelt lower, exposing its throat, a gesture of complete submission and trust. Sarah raised the silver blade. Her hand shook. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The werewolf's eyes closed. In them, finally, was peace. Sarah struck true. The silver blade pierced the werewolf's heart. The creature gasped once, then began to change. The fur receded. The massive body shrank. In moments, Marcus Thorne lay before her, old and human and finally free. "Thank you," he breathed, and died. The ancient bones behind them crumbled to dust. The silver ore dimmed, its purpose fulfilled. The curse, at last, was broken. Tom and Sarah emerged from the cave as dawn broke. They told the town that a rogue wolf had been killed. The attacks would stop now. No one questioned it. No one wanted to. Sarah stayed in Millbrook for another week, making sure no more deaths occurred. The town slowly returned to normal. Shops stayed open later. People smiled again. On her last night, Sarah stood at the edge of the forest. She thought about curses and monsters, about how sometimes the real horror wasn't the beast, but the man trapped inside it. She got in her car and drove away. Behind her, Millbrook slept peacefully for the first time in months. The full moon rose over the mountains, beautiful and bright and safe. But deep in the forest, in a cave now empty, something stirred. A single silver scale fell from the wall, landing in a pool of water. The ripples spread outward. Some curses take more than death to break, and somewhere, another person was about to find a cave they shouldn't enter.